Once upon a time there were two kids named Emma and Luis who loved adventures. One day, while exploring in the woods behind their house, they stumbled upon something extraordinary. Peeking out from behind some bushes was what looked like a tiny rocket ship. Emma and Luis could hardly contain their excitement. A real rocket ship, just sitting there waiting to be explored. The two kids slowly approached the ship, mouths agape in wonder. Up close they could see it was covered in intricate designs and markings that looked like nothing from Earth. Luis reached out and touched the metal exterior, feeling how smooth and cool it was under his fingertips. After circling the ship a few times, Emma noticed a door on the side and pointed it out to Luis. They both grabbed the handle together and pulled it open, the door swinging upward with a whoosh. Inside was unlike anything they'd ever seen before. The walls were lined with brightly flashing buttons, screens, and dials. Two crimson chairs with seatbelts sat at the front facing a huge panoramic window. "It's a real rocket ship," cried Emma. "Let's get in and see if it flies." The two kids clambered into the chairs, fastening the seatbelts around their waists. Luis grabbed what looked like two joysticks in front of him, and Emma started flicking switches over her head. Suddenly the ship began humming and vibrating as the screens lit up with alien symbols. "I think we're moving," Luis shouted. Outside the window, the forest scenery had begun shifting as the rocket ship started floating up into the air. Within moments, they had risen above the tops of the trees. Down below they could see their neighborhood with tiny houses and cars. The ship continued its ascent until the wide expanse of the blue sky was visible all around them. Emma peered out and then turned to Luis. "Let's go into space and find the moon," she said excitedly. Luis grinned back and pushed the joysticks forward. The rocket ship surged higher, bursting through puffy white clouds. The sky darkened to black and millions of stars came into view. The cute little ship soared upward until the round, pockmarked surface of the moon shone brightly ahead. As they approached the cratered surface, Emma and Luis searched for the perfect landing spot. "There," Luis called out, pointing to a flat plain. He carefully maneuvered the ship downward, extending its spindly metal legs. The rocket touched down with a small bounce, moon dust kicking up around it. After unbuckling, the two kids ran to the window, gazing out at the barren, dusty, crater-filled landscape in awe. It was pitch black and eerily quiet. "We made it to the moon," exclaimed Emma. "Now let's go explore." The kids put on the moon boots and space helmets they found under the seats. Emma pushed a button and the door slowly lowered down, forming a ramp to the surface. They walked down the ramp, boots crunching in the gray lunar dust. Luis did a giddy moon jump, laughing as he floated back down. Looking around, the moon seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions. Craters and mountains surrounded them as far as the eye could see. "Race you to that crater," Emma said, skipping off across the low-gravity surface. Luis bounded after her, flying 20 feet with each leap. When they reached the crater's rim, the kids peered over the edge, marveling at its enormous size and depth. Inside they could see boulders and the crater's rugged slopes. After playing astronaut tag and taking moon selfies, Emma spotted something peculiar shining in a smaller crater nearby. She called Luis over to look. At the crater's bottom sat what looked like a crystalline geode as big as a car. Its facets glimmered iridescently in the sunlight. Luis and Emma half climbed, half slid down the inner slope to get a closer look. The huge geode was a rainbow of colors. Reds, oranges, purples, and blues shone and sparkled as they moved around it. "It's beautiful," said Luis. "Let's try to take it back home with us." The kids searched the ship and found cables with magnetic clamps. Working together, they managed to secure cables around the giant geode and use the ship's robotic arm to hoist it up the crater slope. After safely loading the space geode into the ship's cargo bay, Emma and Luis climbed back into the cockpit. "Mission accomplished," Luis said, pointing the ship upwards once more. The engines ignited and the ship blasted up off the moon's surface. The gray, pockmarked terrain quickly receded from view. Soon the beautiful blue and green orb of Earth came into sight ahead of them. Emma and Luis carefully piloted the ship through the atmosphere, slowing their descent as the forest below came into focus. They touched down gently in the same clearing they had discovered the ship. After getting the glittering geode down the ramp, the two kids gazed up at the little rocket. "What an awesome adventure," said Emma. "I wish we could keep the ship and go exploring space forever." Luis nodded sadly. He walked up and affectionately touched the ship's cold metal exterior one last time. "Goodbye, space rocket. Thanks for the magical journey." The kids then headed home, lugging the huge iridescent geode between them. They would never forget the extraordinary day they got to be real astronauts who walked on the moon. But no one would probably believe their amazing story. The end.